Oh, fuck, I'm gonna bird. Hey, guys. What's up? What it is? I'm gonna get to how I've been, OSG. Thanks for the glizzies, Saru. Or do you go by another name now? Yeah, you can't fool me with that one. You can't fool me with that one. I see my mic. Uh, thanks for the 7 months, Kaviri. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for the plink, Lirio. I love how you respond to me, asking if I'm sure. That's great. Anyway, where was I? Get subtitles. Fantastic. Oh, let me bring something up real quick. Let me bring something up real quick. I will turn the music down, though. I will turn the music down. Getting one guide. Have you always been completely black-haired? It depends on the lighting. Enjoy your lurk, Saru. It depends on the lighting. To be fair. Cameras don't see the truth. Sometimes you have to color correct them. This one might be bratty and in need of correction. Big thirsty sippies today. That's why I don't have a sippies redeem. I'm constantly doing it. Constantly. Oh, damn. Anyway, wore my Corona shirt. Apparently there's a new Corona. there's a new Rona apparently. I mean, no, not really. I mean, it's not actually. But people are nervous. People are nervous because of the rat shit disease on the boat. Our what? Yay, new pandemic. No, it won't be that. It won't be that. Barring some random mutation. But I'm pretty sure they said that wasn't gonna be a thing. I'm gonna start streaming. Look. If there is a new pandemic, you might wanna a new rat dropped. More like rat droppings. Me when I read the message immediately above the message that doesn't make sense. Yeah. Someone gotta eat a rat or something, or college is getting brutal. Speaking of college, how about that in structure hack, eh? How about that in structure hack? That was fun. The most fun part about it is that nobody was busting our door down, taking out a 20K in loan to invest in streaming for the new pandemic. I mean, yeah. Oh, before we get to that, I might as well be a VTuber. I've done another VTuber-ism. You guys ready? Can you guess what it is? Can you guess what I did? Or rather, what bikini? No, not yet. Not yet. I have not worn the Kalkini. I have not worn the golden bikini. I have not worn the virgin killer. Just had to do a parenting thing though. That was pretty uncomfortable and just kind of hanging in the air. Um, Plaus got it. Mold. So what happened was back in October, we bought some like tiny pumpkins to put in windowsills. And one of them escaped cleanup, apparently. It was behind the perfect spot in the curtain. And my 8-year-old found it today. Yeah, pre-digested. It looked fine from the view, looking towards it. I'm like, huh, that's still there. And my son picks it up, and it is like soft and squishy and trying to fall apart like a water balloon. Like it's got bounce to it. And I spin it around, and the side that's facing like the window looking out is just completely mold ridden. And the bottom of it is mold ridden. So yeah, I guess I'm commissioning some sort of thing to be a VTuber now because I have completed all the quests. I've completed all the quests, except for getting scammed by an artist. I need to do that one next. After I collect the getting scammed by an artist Infinity Stone, I will have a complete VTuber experience. Waifu really needs to debut. Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Oh man. So I've got the Eve music going because of a pretty funny story. Let me see if I can't cue this up. Not cue this up, tee this up. There we go. I need to get more recordings of these guys so I can make like individual transitions for individual scenes, and it's all different seagulls for different scenes. I need to do that. Maybe this weekend? I don't know. This weekend's kind of busy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yay, Google Chrome talk. Hey Omni, welcome in. Sort of. CCP Games ain't no way crazy name. Yeah, they only need one more C. But the guys, yeah, the wrong CCP. I guess, yeah, there's a few CCPs, aren't there? One has an extra C. That was the one I was thinking of immediately because I'm pretty sure Russia still owns the entire east side of the map in EVE Online. But these are the EVE Online developers. And they were bought by the company that owns Black Desert Online. I almost said Black Dragon Online because of recent talks we've been having in the secret spot. Oops. I really should go to AVN next year. I need to do that. Because I keep being like, oh, I've got imposter syndrome, blah, blah, blah. And Linda's like, you should go, dude. You should just come with me. We should go. No. Anywho, Black Desert Online purchased CCP Games, or their parent company did, a while ago. In the bully pin. Oh, God. RuneScape KBD collab. Oh, no. Anyway, they're spinning off another company. I'm not sure if they're keeping the game or not. I'd be wanting to dump them too. They did not do so great after that merger. That didn't really go well for the Black Desert Online folks, at least from my perspective. They kept having like all of these failed EVE Online spin-offs while not fixing the core game. And that was just a recipe for real success there. Anyway, apparently they're rebranding as Fenris Creations and becoming AI Bros. So that's a thing. That's a thing. Speaking of bully pin, Lirio. The next I see you, I will have this feller. I will have this feller. So, yeah. We're going burden, dude. Yeah, fancy fleshlight. Fancy fleshlight. It's all manual. I am going to have a time with this. I am going to be wrestling with this thing. I don't even want to imagine, even at 6.3 wide open, how much it even has the vibrating bit for clit stimulation. Great, it does. That's for the tripod. I know that was a joke, but the thing about lenses that are this heavy is that they change the center of gravity for the camera. And having the camera be the place where the support is coming from can rip the mount off of the camera. So on lenses like this, they have a collar for tripod mounting, so that you don't tear up your camera with its big, heavy glass dick. So that's what that's for. Since this is for an ASPC platform, the effective field of view is going to behave as a 750 millimeter lens. So, I may need to find some sort of alternate viewfinder so I can kind of roughly aim the camera where I want it. Because if it's closer than, I'd say 15 meters, I will not be able to, like, pan to find it because it will just be too far away from the, like, there will be too much motion involved relatively. That's going to be a challenge. Getting manual focus at that focal length is going to be a challenge. Just aim better, unironically. Unironically, that's the solution, is just to aim better. But yeah, waifu's getting me that for my birthday. And she was all like, oh, which mount do you want it for? Or, actually, no, she didn't ask that. I was like, she was trying to surprise me. And I'm like, you can't surprise me with a lens. And she's like, sure, I'm going to surprise you with this lens. And I'm like, yeah, which mount? And she's like, mount? So eventually she bullied me into telling her F mount. Well, it doesn't come in F mount, but the way she said that was classic waifu. So she links me this and she goes, you said F mount, right? So Fuji X? Imagine having a partner that supports your hobbies. Hey, Focused, what's up? Yeah, imagine. Still, how's it going? So, she also asked me, like, oh, do you need, like, a polarizing filter for it? I'm like, you need to let me handle that one. I appreciate you thought of that. I'm surprised that you remembered what a polarizing filter was and that I had mentioned needing one in the past. Lime, grape, and creamsicle. Yeah, she does. She just like, you need to let me handle that. Because the polarizing filter, how do I explain this? What This thing goes down all the way to f32? Jesus. I mean, I guess it would. Oh, yeah. Lens math time. Hold on. Hold on. Those are the closest flavors I could get to, hold on. So, I gotta go over here. So on cameras, the maximum aperture or F number. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. If you start another train, I am removing it. Just so we're clear. So 6.3 was the maximum aperture of that lens. It goes all the way down to f32. I'm sure there's an f22 in there somewhere. My life is harder than anybody's. Pepe hands. Oh, wait. Scooting over this way is what gets me in the center of the frame. Oops. Oh, that's dirty. I can't show that. That's, I'm talking about my mouse. It has too much hand junk on it. I'm gonna have to clean my mice and controllers after stream. Oh, that's gonna be annoying. But this is a ratio of the length that the rear lens element is from the sensor. Y'all can't quite see that. Let's say this is the sensor right here. To the... And this is where it gets kind of confusing. But to the apparent optical diameter of the front lens element. So... Or the aperture, I should say. Right back here. And then, of course, the aperture can only get as big as the barrel of the lens. And it can't even really get that large. So it is related to the diameter of the front element. It's just that's not directly what causes that. So if I've got a lens and the distance from the rear element to the sensor is 50 millimeters, but the aperture can only open to a maximum of, say, like 42 millimeters, then the maximum aperture is going to be something like 1.2 to like 1.4. Like, I'm not doing the math right now. It's going to be one of these numbers. I just made one. Actually, this one might be one of those weird, like, knocked lenses of the 0.85 ratio, whatever. But that's what determines your F number. So at f32, the aperture has a ratio of, like, 32 to 1. Itty bitty. Compared to like this distance. And that's what that means. And what that number determines is basically how bright the image is, but also your depth of field. Anyway, we go back to that now. And then we click here and go back to that. So that's what's going on with that. So on lenses that are this long, like this has a 500 millimeter focal length. To get to an aperture of f2, I would have to have a 250 millimeter front lens element, essentially. Well, a little bigger than that. But that's why when you look at the expensive lenses, they're always fucking huge. That's why. That's why those are related things. Physics. Anywho. Let me go to... Let me get back to where I was. Because I lost my place. They're huge to flex only, no other reason. The huge ones do flex. You gotta be careful with that. You gotta be careful with that. Anyway, waifu doing a nice thing for me. I'm very appreciative. And then of course I've got my fishing trackers on because I've been back in FF recently. So that kind of ties that's kind of where I'm sitting today. That's kind of where I'm sitting today. Oh, wrong fishing. No. I mean, yes, but actually no. Let's see what I catch. Of course, I have the ocean fishing cheat sheet. But those are the quick stories for today. I kind of wanted to talk about some things I've noticed in the job market lately. Just real quick. Or maybe in depth, it depends on the tangents I get on. Because I'm in hiring phase again. And a lot of things are coming in that I'm like, guys, I know things are rough out there, but this needs to stop. This needs to stop. You are shooting yourself in the foot. If you're applying to a tech position, let's get the most egregious one out of the way. Okay? Let's get that one out of the way. If you are applying for a tech position, the worst thing I can see on your resume is, I built my own computer. Wow. Wow, that impresses me. You know, that guy on The Verge, he also built his own computer. It even booted. It booted. It worked. You know what you're not going to do in if you think building a computer is a flex, I understand that it's your entire point, but holy shit. It even booted. Yeah, well, I mean, did you see that Verge video? It's notorious. That dude is infamous. It was shocking that it booted. You crashed your own stream? How did that happen? Also, welcome in, Kaviri. I think you have seen that video. You know what? We're gonna pull it up. We're gonna pull it up. It's instructive. Let's see. Somebody had to re-upload it because they took it down. There we go. All right. Yep, y'all can't hear that. I'm gonna have to turn.
You can build
on.
a gaming desktop for around $1,000, but I want to go all out, so I spent around $2,000. PC like this is going to be able to play most games at ultra settings. So, what do you need?
Remember when going all out on a PC was $2,000?
To build a desktop? Well, of course, first you need a table. Preferably not metal.
Also, I'm not trying to farm this clip. This clip is dead and old, and this is not farming material. I just need to catch people up to what happened anytime somebody mentions the Verge video to you, this is what they're talking about.
If it's going to be metal, have an anti-static working surface layered on top of it, a thermal paste applicator, an Allen wrench, some tweezers to tighten up the wires, a Swiss Army knife which hopefully has a Phillips head screwdriver in it.
Tweezers not pictured. Also, I forgot about this part.
There's a Swiss Army knife which hopefully has a Phillips head screwdriver in it.
Hopefully.
And last but not least, an anti-static bracelet, which is to protect you and the parts. These are the parts you're going to need, but more importantly, before we get there, we need to...
Okay, chat. This might not be immediately obvious to you, but he said to spread the thermal paste, dummy, because that's a thing you have to do manually that the pressure won't do for you. He said to put an anti-static bag on top of the table to put the motherboard on, and then got a grounding wrist strap that he did not ground, fortunately for the computer. So when you ground yourself and then insulate the motherboard, what do you think you're creating? What environment do you think you're creating there? Yeah, the reason you put that on the anti-static bag is because you are also not grounded. And you don't want the motherboard to be grounded while you are not grounded, because like you're wearing you're wearing sneakers or something. Like your shoes are made of rubber. What you actually need to do is touch the ground plane of the motherboard, and then you don't need either of those things. Moving on.
To understand what these parts are doing and how they interact with one another.
To better understand the parts that make up a desktop, let's try to understand them individually. The processor is like the computer's brain, a base of calculations that control everything the computer does. The motherboard is like the foundation, serving as a main structure for all other parts to be
Least
added
wrong
to.
part of the video
It also
so
allows
far.
the other parts to communicate with one another, which also makes it kind of like a nervous system. Graphics cards are responsible for rendering and processing visuals into what you see on screen. Our PC's power supply is of course channeling electricity, in that it adjusts and provides the right amount of energy to keep it running.
You know what? Not wrong enough to correct. Keep going.
Last but not least, RAM, or random access memory, and your hard drive are good examples of short-term and long-term memory, respectively. If you want to better understand what kind of computer to build, then first figure out what you want to use it for. A gamer might care more about a
Gee, Billy, why's your mom let you have 2 Xbox controllers?
graphics card than, say, a video editor who might want extra RAM to assist with editing large files. If you're building a budget build for video streaming, say under $1,000, you want to focus on parts, like a Core i5 or Core i3 processor, that require less energy. They'll be less powerful, but then you'll be able to scale back the cost of several other parts. And if you need help choosing the right parts for your build, there's sites like PCPartPicker.com that help show presets for which parts fit together. Choosing the right parts for your build, there's sites like PCPartPicker.com and
Unbox them.
Okay, no, we gotta go back to
or
this.
Core streaming, say, to assist with editing large files. If you're building a budget build for video streaming, say under $1,000, you want to focus on parts, like a Core i5 or Core i3 processor, that require less energy.
Under no circumstances should you be buying a gaming PC with a Core i3 in it during any generation.
They'll be less powerful.
And that doesn't automatically mean they save energy either. They tend to, but that's not an automatic.
But then you'll be able to scale back the cost of several other parts. And if you need help choosing the right parts for your build, there's sites like PCPartPicker.com that help show presets for which parts fit together, which sort of part conflicts you might have, and where to find deals on.
I also think this is more of a Verge issue than the guy. Like, this guy got so much fucking hate. The fact that this got past the Verge's editing staff is the problem.
New parts.
We have a lot of boxes and a lot of PC parts, so it's best you unbox them, isolate the parts that you really need, place items
What do you mean the parts that you really need? I demand you expand on that.
into the case and make sure that they all fit and then start working. And now we're really going to start building by adding the motherboard in. Some notes about installing motherboards: they're really delicate, you should be really careful with them, and screw in with confidence, but also don't screw in too hard, otherwise you could crack the board. I chose a...
He's not wrong there, but you have to crank that hog real hard to introduce that risk.
Asus's Z370 motherboard for two main reasons. One, it has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and also it has support for NVMe SSDs, meaning you can get really fast SSDs that are really easy to install. Pay close attention to the brace that goes at the back of the computer. You always have to make sure that you really hammer it in, because there's no screw, it really just has to go outside of the
hammer. People were giving him a lot of shit on this. That's called the IO shield, and I think he may have just put that in backwards. Yeah, it's not a brace. That's the IO shield. All that stuff he was talking about, grounding things and so on. No, that's the right direction to put that in from. Anyway, the IO shield also does that. Screw the IO shield. Raw dog it, man. I have done that way more than once. I encourage you to install it, but if you're slicing yourself to ribbons trying to install it, which you can do, I have, you can just give up, and as long as you don't have pets, you will probably be fine.
The case and clasp onto the frame. And this is very important because otherwise you can't align the motherboard correctly with the holes. We're just going to start installing all 8 screws. So next we're going to install the RAM on the motherboard.
Sylph.
I chose Corsair's 16GB.
This is a nitpick, okay? I fully admit that this is a nitpick. The RAM goes on the board before the board goes in the case. So does the CPU, so does the CPU cooler. Usually in that order, and depending on where they put that NVMe slot, you probably want to do that too.
Vengeance LED RAM for two main reasons. One, it has LEDs and we do like lights in our gaming desktops. Secondly, it's pretty fast RAM. It's 2666 megahertz, I believe, so it's pretty
2666 megahertz, super fast. This was 2013. That still wasn't super fast.
And this motherboard supports that speed, which is most important. Open the slots first, and just aligning the stick with...
Notice how he opened all 4 and only had 2...
the middle of the strip, not with the end, and just lining that up with the logo. So once you hear that solid clasp and you don't see the gold connectors on the side anymore, that's when you know the RAM is in. Step 3, we're going to install the hard drive, or in this case, the NVMe SSD. I chose this format of solid state drive so that I could input it into the motherboard without having to worry about extra wires or putting it in a separate part of the case and just getting really messy.
Also, it's fucking fast. Did you mention that it was fucking fast?
See, this is from Kingston, and it's 480
Never mind, it's from Kingston. It isn't.
gigabytes, so it's not a lot, but you can always upgrade this and swap it out, and it's only held down by one screw and the latch, so it's really simple and really straightforward. Speed for gaming is important when it comes to a hard drive. You want files to write quickly, and you want games to load quickly, so that's why it's best if you use an SSD. Okay, so step 4, we're going to install the graphics card. I chose...
No! Step 4 is, okay, now that my CPU is in, I'm going to connect all the power headers. Did it show him removing the plastic? No, it didn't. You've got to connect the power headers from your power supply at this point. There's not a lot of clearance, even in boards that old, to get the power supply cables routed. If you put in a GPU at this stage, it's going to be a pain in the fucking ass.
Chose PNY's GTX 1080, which is overclocked, and so it's...
GTX 1080. Those were the days. Those were the days, guys. Anyway, this video has a host of errors. A lot of them were at the beginning with the hope, you know, the hopefully there's a screwdriver in your in your fucking Swiss Army knife to put a computer together and shit like that. Like, a lot of the errors were up here. There will be more back here. But since there were a lot of errors in the front of it, people started nitpicking the fuck out of all of these choices. I've actually deliberately not done that.
It's pretty easy
A lot of these things have been bad, but not like, don't say it bad.
installation. You're just going to find the gold connectors, and you're going to line this bracket with the back end bracket of your PC case. Now, which lane you choose depends entirely on what other parts you're going to put in the system. I'm just going to pick the...
No, it doesn't. It depends on the motherboard manufacturer specification. It's usually the top slot, no matter what else the fuck you're doing.
top one because the SSD is at the bottom and I don't want to cover it. I just think it looks nice.
I just think it looks nice. Ooh, okay. Ooh. You're putting it there because you think it looks nice. So does anybody want to tell me who can... All about the drip. Anybody want to tell me why that's wrong before I do? Void coded. You're right. While I'm waiting for that answer. Been playing Final Fantasy XIV with this guy lately. Pretty fucking solid experience so far. You're just jealous you don't think it looks nice. No, nice. No, what do you mean, how? It's a controller. You can play Final Fantasy XIV with a controller. It's kind of designed for it. I would never play WoW that way. That's for damn sure. I would never play WoW with a controller. But that thing is old? What, the 8BitDo Pro 2? People pronounce that like 8BitDo. No. If you're going to have controllers that primarily target the Nintendo market, it's Do. It is always Do. Every time. Screw you. Anyway, since no one said it, the amount of speed, we'll call it that, you get out of your PCI lanes is physically dependent on the layout on the motherboard. And only one of those lanes typically, unless you go really high end, only one of those lanes, one of those slots gets their full 16 lanes. So if you put that graphics card in one of those other lanes, you're going to get, or one of those other slots, you're going to get 8 lanes, or even 4 lanes, and then your 1080 just, ain't gonna do nothing.
Click down. Take your remaining brackets and just put them...
Noodle, I'm not sure you get a choice which one you picked, because, like, one of them failed, if I'm not mistaken.
in the spots that you haven't used. You don't have to screw these in.
The blanks are good.
They
help with the
bolted down by the back-end bracket. And your GPU is installed.
By the way, one criticism of this case, this isn't a him issue, this is the case issue. The blanks in the case have air holes. Oh, it's the same card in the same PC. Oh. I see. This case is built to create negative pressure. These blanks should be solid, to help create a positive pressure. This thing is headed for dust apocalypse. This is how cases were designed back then for the most part. Not his fault. Bad.
Down by the back-end bracket.
You want positive air pressure in the case.
Installed. Power supply time. I chose Corsair's 850 watt power supply because I need enough headroom for ray tracing GPUs when they come out, and I don't want to have to upgrade it again.
You need enough headroom for ray tracing GPUs when they come out. You already have a 1080. It's 2013. The 2000 series is about to launch. Oh, man. I can't hate on him for not predicting the future, but oh, man.
So all you have to do is take the brick and make sure that you align it with these little insulating pads so the power supply doesn't short circuit and come into contact with the rest.
The housing on the power supply is what will cause it to not short circuit, my guy. But yes, try to put it on the pads. They reduce vibration.
The system. So just take it in, slide it in nice and easy until you have a snug fit.
That's
and
what
then
she
shift
said.
it to the back and make sure it's right up against the frame. Now you just take the required screws and you tighten and screw in. So next step, we're going to install the CPU cooler. In this case, it's going to go on the top end of the case, and we're just going to have the hose hang out for a while until we install the processor, which is going to come a little later.
I will forgive it because we're talking about an all-in-one water-cooled CPU cooler.
Just be sure to try to place it in the system first before you install it, because you can see it takes up a lot of space. But in this case, no pun intended, it fits in perfectly, and we're going to start screwing it in.
Bro, do you see those giant standoffs at the top of the case? Do you think they might... Do you think they might be there for something? Do you think they might be there for a reason? Alright, Lirio, have fun with family time. Now, before you totally lose your shit, yes, these are here. Yes, they're specifically to go through the holes on the AIO that he's installing. Yes, it is also built for the AIO to be installed on the bottom if that's the orientation he wants. It is built for that. But please don't do this. Please don't do this.
No pun intended. It fits in perfectly, and we're gonna start screwing it in. And so there's nothing special about this screwing in process. They're just really long screws because they go through the entire frame of the cooler, and they take forever.
Also true.
So next up, cables. Every power supply is gonna come with a big...
It's almost like if you're planning on installing that part, you should have, oh, I don't know, a driver or a drill, and use that.
Big bag of Velcro cables. It's kind of daunting at first, so you always have to find the ones that are gonna fit. In this case, you need to match those cables with the correct descriptions on the power supply. Next step is we're connecting the power supply to the motherboard with a 24-pin cable.
Okay.
Okay. That cable from...
He did that before the CPU went in. We're good. He still made it hard on himself by having everything else installed first. But at least the CPU's not in.
The motherboard, threading it through the back and attaching the 24-pin header to the power supply so that we can have one of the connections complete. The next few additions will be for the GPU, for any specific ports that the case has, for any lighting that the case has, the CPU.
You mean like the motherboard auxiliary CPU power headers that must be plugged in and not just the 24? That you failed to talk about? Nice gamer glasses, by the way.
CPU cooler, anything else really. We're installing the CPU. The heart...
No, you This is the whole problem with installing the CPU first, is the headers for the cables from the power supply to the CPU auxiliary power. There are very tight tolerances, and you really just want as little between your fingers and those as possible, because they're a bitch to put in.
Of the computer or the brain, depending on how you look at it. So to do this, we're just going to remove the
GPU's not a brain at all,
no. On the motherboard. We're just going to take this little plastic part out. We'll just toss that out of here.
No!
And now we have an...
Never toss that. That is not trash. It has a function.
Exposed CPU holder, or rather slot, on the motherboard. And we're going to use the CPU applicator. This is a special little part that not everyone may get, but this motherboard that we got from ASUS definitely does have. It's called a CPU installation tool. It makes it really useful if you want to install a Core i7 hexa-core CPU. Yeah, we've got one, and it's an 8th
Oh,
gen.
yeah. Oh, yeah, we've got one. Oh, boy. Ugh. Of course you got one. You're the Verge.
Chip, and it's ready to go, and it supports overclocking. So what having this little installer does for you
Which you're not smart enough to do.
is basically a brace that you can apply right to the CPU and light it up with the triangles that you'll see on the bottom left corners. And this will make it easier for us to apply it to the motherboard and then apply thermal paste and then apply a CPU.
I don't know if this is one of them, but on some of these boards, that brace also properly discarded of the plastic socket cover. What does the plastic thing he oddly just expositionally tossed versus all the other trash he didn't toss to? It protects the very delicate pins of your motherboard when the CPU is not installed. Most manufacturers require that plastic protection to be installed if you have to RMA the board, or they will just deny it.
Cooler on top. And we're just going to carefully lean it down into the system and make sure that everything lines up, and we're going to clasp down on it and we'll be good to go. So we're about to apply thermal paste to the CPU. Every CPU cooler actually comes with a bit of thermal paste already neatly applied,
And it's more than adequate for that hexacore. RMA the board means return it. Like, if the board is defective in any way or becomes defective later, you have to have that plastic cover because it is incredibly easy to damage those pins in shipping without it, which is why they will deny the warranty. It is almost guaranteed that the board will take damage during shipping if that is not in.
in a circle around it, but it's usually not enough. It's good.
No, it's not usually not enough. That's completely spurious. He didn't even Google that, because there's nowhere he got that information.
Essentially PC building practice to have a little bit extra and layer it on top of the CPU. The final portion is to add the CPU cooler to the top.
He also didn't remove... If you're going to put your own thermal paste on, you have to remove the thermal paste that comes with it, or you're potentially creating air voids. And much like the RBMK, CPUs have positive void coefficients.
Top end of the processor. So you're gonna see that there are 4 brackets, or rather like screws in here with brackets.
That is a lot of thermal paste, by the way. That much thermal paste may drip out of the socket and conductively bridge connections on the motherboard and ruin some shit.
Holders right here, and they're going to keep the cooler raised off the processor, but it's also going to be close enough to actually physically come in contact with it, like basically keep it cool.
That's not what they're for.
Thumb screws like this and just screw them on. So now that our internals are done, we're going to put all the panels back on, which is the top glass, side glass, front glass, and of course the back panel where all this fun stuff is happening. So we fully built the PC, everything's put together, and we got to the post screen. So what's next? Well, you need...
The whole reason I showed you this, and I'm sure, I am absolutely certain of one thing, this guy knows a little bit more about building a computer today than he did in 2013. I'm glad I can have a brother I can already do this shit for me. Yes, that's what we're talking about. This booted. All those mistakes aside, this booted. So do not put, I built my own PC on your resume. Don't do it. Everyone can do this. They give you instruction manuals now. That's not always a thing they gave you. Shocker, I know. You were just expected to know certain things. They did give you manuals for the dip switch. But Louis Rossman said if the fan spins, then it's good. And then DDR5 training said, hold my beer. Also, yeah, if you can get the fan to spin, you're generally 90% of the way there. I can build furniture from IKEA. Can I build a computer? Yeah, want to make a stream out of it? Because, yes. If you can do the former, you can do the latter. By the way, Sylph will be in tomorrow. In the morning. If you want a stream made of an anxiety and tears, sure. Sold! Guys, who wants to see my sister cry? You can see me bleed and you can see her cry. Is PC Builder Simulator a good educational tool? I haven't played it. Put that on the list. Are you gonna make her play Dota? No, I've done that. Fantastic. Oh, that's good shit. Alright, real talk. Real talk for a sec. Don't put this on your resume. If that's your most impressive thing, you have been priced out of the entry-level position. Increases to minimum wage have made that... Back in the day, we could hire on that, okay? And little boomer talk. Back in the day, when we could pay you $7.25 an hour, we could hire you on hunger and I've built a PC before. That's a thing we used to be able to do. But now in a lot of places, $15 an hour is the minimum wage, and we can't hire on that kind of vibe anymore. I can train anybody to do anything. Well, maybe not anybody. I can train a lot of people to do a lot. How about that? I can train a lot of people to do a lot of things, but it takes time. And if I already have to pay you like 45 grand a year, I have hit the point where I expect you to know what you're doing when you're coming in off the street. Also, it's the wrong mindset for most jobs. I'm talking about applying to anything Corpa, which is basically anything that's actually going to get you money. Nobody. 99.999% of Corpa IT techs do not build computers in-house. They never touch them. They never open them. They never pop the side of the case open to so much as look inside. That is like one of the rarest jobs you will do in corporate tech, is open a computer up and fiddle with the internals. You may do that a little when it comes time to retire machines, depending on what your data destruction policy demands. You might get to have fun with Chippy. That's fun, by the way. Always go to the Chippy if you're invited. Unless you're into things you shouldn't be into, and then you should probably stay away from Chippy. Or you know what? I take that back. Always take the invite to Chippy. If you're invited to Chippy, go. If you're invited to Chippy, go. I remove all of my qualifications on that one. Oh, what's Chippy? We're just gonna put yeah. That's Chippy. That's chippy. That's chippy. This is also chippy. We love chippy. Yeah, the wood chipper. Yeah, so they have those, but for, like, hard drives with platters on them. What was it? 0.6 cube, or, it's not cubic, 0.6 square inches? Or 7 millimeters was the maximum particle size of a hard drive that could be left over. You prefer the Megumin option? That's a good option. That's a good option. Depending on the setup. It might not get you to below the particle size, actually, depending on how that's set up. The, Megumin. So yeah, don't do that. You've been priced out of the market. You need to spend more time leveling up. And don't ruin any qualifications you do have by including that. Oh, I built one computer once. Okay. I built 50 computers for a church for charity. Okay, I'm interested in that a little bit. If you've done that, it's not a negative. At that point, it no longer becomes a negative. It might not still be strongly positive, but at that point, it's no longer actively hurting your CV. But if you come at me with the "I've built my own computer before," that is -2. Which is what Spicy likes to give me anytime I make a joke. Other things, don't try to friend me or add me on LinkedIn. Again, this applies to corporate jobs. I did get a +2 today. I was very surprised. I was very appreciative. But you can't say it's not usually a -2. But yes, I did get a +2 today. I was happy about it. But, yeah, add him on Steam. Didn't. Yeah. But if you're applying to Corpa, they usually have policies on a few things. One, there is no flexibility. And I notice Indians do this a lot. There's no flexibility on the process by which your application is submitted. Bothering me at my office being like, "Hey, I applied," or "Do you have any positions?" or doing anything like that that's actually a negative. Because it uselessly bothers me, because every Corpa is captured by HR. And what that means is, I can't hire you that way anymore. I can't have a discussion that way with you anymore. If you don't make the cut, I literally am not allowed to tell you why or give you advice on how to do better. HR prohibits that to avoid lawsuits. Because a few too many people said, "Well, because you're brown," apparently, at some point, and they don't let us talk anymore. So doing all that follow-up your boomer parents are telling you to do is actually hurting you. If your boomer parents are telling you to do that, again, to a corporate position, if you're going to like a very local place, this doesn't apply. Some of it might, but I can't speak for locally places. But at the corporate level, like, all HRs are the same, so I can really speak to that. Don't show up in the office physically. Don't cold call me, because you're going to go on the spam caller list along with, like, the 50 other vendors that cold call me. Don't spam my email. Go through the process. And if you don't get selected, understand that I literally can't tell you why. sucks, but I literally cannot. I will lose my job if I do that. So yeah, spam your grinder instead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, now I'm thinking about that. Can we talk about the ratio? Are we allowed to talk about the ratio? Huh. Let's move on while I think about whether or not I can talk about that. There are rules that can be broken if you're inside of a certain class of people. Which ratio? Like meat to bread in a sandwich, or it kind of like that. Yeah, actually, that's not too far off. How many glizzies go in a bun? You know, that sort of thing. But if you're in a certain class of people, there are certain rules that stop applying to you, and we're just going to move on. The one-page rule, I need to explain like why we have that. Has everybody heard about that? The one-page rule? Don't make your resume longer than a page? Okay, well, it's a thing in the States. It's a thing in the States. And usually, that applies. Unless you've been in charge of... Yeah, I know there's ads. I know there's ads. Knights are only allowed one page. I see what you did there. The ad should be over soon. If... Oh, he can't hear me. I need to know if he saw... Like, when he gets back, I need to know if he saw anything that wasn't the turbo ad. I need to know who was brave enough to advertise on my content settings. Okay, it was the turbo ad. That was way too quick otherwise. But, yeah, it was turbo. Where was I? The one-page rule. The one-page rule. The reason we have that is because generally your relevant experience to the job should not take more than one page. Once you've been in middle or upper management long enough, you should have enough relevant major projects that you can break this rule. Where people get in trouble is that they try to break this rule with their Wendy's experience because technically it falls within some imaginary time frame that I care about. Like, well, you know, I had that job 7 years ago, and Pappy always told me to include 7 years of experience on my resume, so I gotta put my Wendy's experience at it. No. Wendy's nuts hit your face. Do people really put that much bullshit on there? Bro, if it would not get me in trouble, I would pull up one of the resumes I got over the last 6 weeks right now. Because the answer is yes. The answer is yes. That's why the one-page rule exists. Like any rule, there are times that it is meant to be broken. But for most of you, just redact the names. Not that easy. See, I want to say don't use AI, it's obvious, but there's a big caveat to that. There's a big caveat to that. If you know for a fact that the corpa you're applying to filters with an AI, I say go for it. If they filter with an AI, and you know that, I say go for it. It will knock you points if real humans are reading it. Me submitting 1 page plus 1 word to be cheeky. Yeah. On that note, I don't know if anybody else's tools are like this, but I'm going to give you a warning. if I have 100 plus resumes or 100 plus people who applied to the position, and there's this giant questionnaire, and you don't attach a resume, I'm not even looking at you. If you do attach a resume, use a PDF. Because if I click on the PDF, the web browser will open it. If I click on a Word document, it will make me download something, and you immediately go to the bottom of the pile. If you're a good candidate, or I don't find a good candidate before I get to you, I will eventually read it. But you are going to be in the list of people that I read their resumes dead last, just out of convenience. This is like, I've got 100 of these fucking things to go through. More than that. So if I click the icon for the resume, yeah, people don't make it. Yeah, if I click the icon for the resume, and anything other than PDF happens, you're going to the bottom. I have accidentally seen someone submit a resume as an HEIC. Holy shit. Holy shit. That's crazy. Yeah, get it in PDF format, please. HEIC Sylph is the Apple image format that, like, if you're using an iPhone, it's the image format that they default you to when you're taking pictures with your iPhone. What if an EXE happens? If your onboarding platform is not filtering for those, you've got bigger problems. But yeah, I like that. I was also thinking about that when it was like, hey, you need to download this file. It's like, what file types are you checking for, dude? Why'd you let this docx happen? They took a picture of their physical resume. Is that what that means? Maybe. That might be what that means. What it means is that file probably came from a Mac device. Regardless of how that file came to be, maybe they took a screenshot of it. You know, maybe they had it in PDF format and they took a screenshot. That would turn it into an HEIC. By default, anyway. And if you're on a... Yeah. Yeah, it can't be... Like, if you're on a Windows machine, you have to pay money to download the codec to open that. Or you have to have professional image editing software. They typically have those licenses with them. So if you have Affinity Photo or Adobe Premiere Pro, you can open them with those programs, but Windows will not view them by default. You have to pay the license fee. Which is fucking why, like, Apple includes those kind of things into their OSs. Just change the file extension. Yeah, that'll work. Oh. But yeah, tomorrow, just as a little preview, I intend to get real nitty gritty with the MMO talk. Eventually, just open it with VLC. Maybe. But VLC might not be allowed on your network. Like, I'm not the only Corpa. I hold the keys to that kingdom. So I can have those programs, but the person viewing your resume may not necessarily have access to those programs. And maybe in a different corporation, maybe even I couldn't at my level. There is something to be said for role-based access. The point is, make it a PDF. Just make it a PDF. Don't not use a PDF. What about MMO things? Well, I don't want to get super into it until you're here, but a lot of stuff has happened in FF14. One thing I will talk about right now, however, was like there was this post on Twitter. Apparently, people have been really mad at story skippers lately. one of the reasons I re-upped is because Shadowbringers is free now. It's part of the free experience. So I was like, hey, oldest son, the literal best expansion in the game is now part of the free experience. Let's fucking go. And oldest son, let me tell you what he cares about. Like, in the context of people shitting on story skippers. Let me tell you what he cares about. He cares about looking like a ninja. Did you see Crony losing her VA with one of the gacha games? No. No, I didn't. What happened? But, oh boy. Chad Knights? I need to know what Chad Knights is. Arc Knights? I don't know. It is so stupid you literally will not believe it. I love it. I love it. Spiral Knights? What the fuck is Spiral Knights? I think WoW is in a better place right now than FF14 is. Just as an outside observer. It's peak. Bro. Spiral Knights was great. I have never... I like barely remember what it even is. Like, the name is only vaguely familiar. Now you're making me search. What is fucking Spiral Knights? What is Spiral Knights? What is Spiral Knights? This looks like very kid shit. This looks like something that would be advertised on the after school portion of Cartoon Network. Like on Toonami or some shit. Yeah, it only looks vaguely graphically better than Turok 2. Anyway. So he skips all the story. You know why? It's because he's 15, and all he cares about is looking like a ninja, having ninja attacks, and killing things while being a ninja. That is what he cares about. Beware, oblivion is at hand. Yeah. Goated. That is what he cares about. He don't care about Gridanian politics. He don't care about Uber danger. He don't care about how Limsa is basically the Barbary states. He don't care about no monetarists. Why is he playing FF14 then? Because I also play it, and and there's a ninja. I tried to talk him out of that as a first class. I think that's a really bad idea as a first class, but he wasn't gonna have it. He wasn't gonna have it. He wanted to play ninja. He still wants to play ninja. And when samurai is unlockable, maybe he will play that. Fucking weeb. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about the story. And I can just about guarantee he's going to care about the last cutscene or the series of them, and maybe that's what gets him into the story. But you know, when he was doing that, I was trying to recall what from the ARR era is really critically important to him enjoying Shadowbringers. And I couldn't think of much, to be honest. I could not think of much at all. Like, Alphino and Red Alphino completely changes characters from now till then. Like, completely. They're just completely different. You posted the Crony story in Discord. Hold on. No, I mean Red Alpha, no. That became canon in Endwalker. I, I don't know how to react to this. Because she made a pun. 5 years prior. Because she made a pun 5 years prior. Yeah. What? So yeah, about getting jobs. Don't make puns, apparently. I do look at your digital footprint, by the way. A lot of corpo levels have a dude assigned to do that. It won't even always be the hiring manager. Don't breathe, okay? Yeah. Again, this is for corpo jobs that have a big ol' HR department. Your socials will be combed through. It will not always be the hiring manager doing it, but your socials will be combed through. I've passed a few background checks of varying levels, and I think I'm good there. Whatever cringe I have online, it was not disqualifying, so there is hope. But apparently in voice acting, puns are forbidden. Do you have to link all your socials? I haven't seen that personally. I have heard about it. Direct Report was really harsh on the new applicants that did not have LinkedIns. So what I take that to mean is that when they're being indoctrinated, a lot of value is being assigned to LinkedIn externally. I dislike LinkedIn a bunch. You not having a LinkedIn will not ever have negative points with me. It might have positive points with me. My institution all but requires that we have one, but I don't like the platform. I have not gotten much useful out of it. Maybe nothing useful out of it. I don't like it. But apparently, the people coming out of university are having it hammered into their heads that they need one. So take that for what it is. And now AI slop. What kind of footprint are you gonna have on LinkedIn? It's just random. Yeah, it is literally. It is just the Weird Al Synergy song. That is what LinkedIn is the Weird Al like corporate whiteboard synergy song. Great song, by the way. But that is what LinkedIn is. So there's that. Oh, that's not the digital footprint I'm looking at. I'm combing your Facebook, Twitter, anything that I can find that links to the information you sent in your resume. I'm basically doing OSINT on you, essentially. I've caught people saying some heinous shit before. And some not so heinous shit, but I will tell you that if you're in charge of certain types of federal data, there's stuff you should not be saying online. Yeah, obviously. Yeah, all the time. Not just their real names, but reused email addresses. There are sites you can go to in the OSINT model. There are websites you can go to, several of them, where you just be like, hey, I have this email address. What accounts is this email address tied to across as many social platforms as you have data for that? Because, like, data brokers sell this. It gets leaked. You know, they're like, there's huge databases of this now for OSINT purposes. And Yeah, I can just find all of your accounts tied to that email that way, essentially. I can totally see that you signed up with a FetLife. I can totally see what your yay leaks. I can totally see what your Discord account name is. I can totally, yeah. If you're reusing emails, Proton Mail has a really good solution for that, by the way. Proton Mail natively supports just spinning up burners to sign up to stuff with. So yeah. Not sponsored. But if that is a thing that bothers you, you may want to look into getting a Proton Mail. Especially when it comes to signing up for random bullshit like Razer Synapse. Ugh. Why is that a thing? You have to sign into our platform to customize your mouse. Thanks. Thanks, I hate it. Oof. Sylph, you still here? I might have to take a water break. Shit. The ooh. I dribbled. I recall you had a Naga at one point. Was that like the 2014 or a different one? And did it break yet? Or do you even use MMO mice anymore? I'm lizard bolting things. So you're hitting things with nature damage. Yeah, I'm gonna have to hit the BRB screen. I have to use the restroom. Hold up. Sorry, that song puts me to fucking sleep. God. I needed that drink. Goodness. Okay, cool. So you still use one. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that tomorrow. The one thing I see a lot of is like people don't scope their applications to the job. So like the job that, and I know it's rough out there, guys, but like if I'm advertising a part-time position and you submit a resume with 15 years of relevant experience on it, and it looks strong, and you have strong certifications, I will not hire you because you are leaving the second you get a full-time opportunity. Sorry, that is what it is. I know the market out there is rough, but you're either really bad at your job and they finally threw you out, or I'm a stepping stone, and neither of those are good for me. I did see a lot of applications from people who were like looking for their first job out of college. That's rough for you guys. Don't get taken advantage of. Make sure that when you're coming to the interview, you have something to offer and you're getting something, and you're explicit about the fact that it is an exchange. You should be bringing something to the program. Like, there's a reason. I need a reason to gamble on you. Part-time is not always a stepping stone, per se. I know what you're talking about, and I know the gist, and I agree with the gist. But inside of certain population, yeah, I am the table. Don't do that. Don't I am the table. Very good plus. Some older people who are retired will just have part-time to have a part-time and have no intention of stepping stoning that part-time job. It depends on the demographics of your area. Like, I have two very large demographics where part-time is not necessarily a quick stepping stone, and I see a lot of them. But if your hope is to... And the reason I don't hire the 13 years guy is he's going to bounce much quicker than the guys who are looking to stepping stone because they're just like fresh out of college. Unless they're worthless. That's the caveat on the old people. If the old people that are experienced aren't bouncing in less than a few months, it means I hired somebody who's worthless, essentially. Or that it's very likely that I did that. I hope that makes sense. I'm just telling you as a hiring manager what I'm looking at. There's actually a very, like, narrow group of people I'm looking for. I still had Discord open. I was not prepared for that message from Plaws. Let's see. Has anybody have questions about the hiring process? Not necessarily in tech, but with corpo jobs in general, though tech is where I have the most experience. Because if not, we're going to move on to the instructure thing, aka Canvas. That's pretty good. I like that it's mini instead of mega. The bobbed hair is pretty cute. Tomorrow the freeloaders might have to watch more ads. Yeah, the short hair is great. Because I might have to set my content tags to family friendly tomorrow. It just depends on things. Yay, ads. We hate ads. But like I can't have the sexual themes tag on when I have certain noises happening in the background or perhaps even the foreground. You know what I'm saying? Like I might have to adjust the tags tomorrow. Erm. Sexual themes. Hello, sister. No, I mean that's pretty normal on Twitch. You can have sexual themes on while saying hello to your sister. I believe one of my moots does that as part of the kayfabe. But hello, Aunt. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that's a problem. Hey guys, no minors in my stream. I'm tagged 18 plus. Hey boy, what's up? You want to come comment on something? Yeah. That's an issue. That's an issue. See, I'll be getting more ads. Sylph, when you were playing FF14, because Sylph played it before they got rid of tank stances. Or before they got rid of healer stances. Well, before they got rid of either. Did you do the Alexander raids? They got rid of tank stances? Yeah. Yeah, they did. Long time ago. I think they've been dead since, 4? I thought you got all the way through Heaven's Word. They might not have added the Alexander raids in yet. Oh boy. Titan. Oh no, they had the well, what you're talking about are trials. I'm not sure they had any raids that were not oh no, the Bahamut. Coils of Bahamut were the raids. Coils of Bahamut were the raids. The Alliance raids were the Crystal Tower. But no, in Heaven's Word they added Alexander raids. And it's full of time travel shenanigans. Yeah. No. You're talking about. Damn it! They did call that stance. You are technically correct, but what I mean is, stance used to be an entirely different thing. You used to do more damage outside of tank stance, and you actually had to actively manage your enmity, because you would lose DPS for having your tank stance on. So you had to manage your enmity to get maximum deeps. That was way back, though. That hasn't been things for a hot minute. Yeah, they still call it tank stance. That is going away. It looks like. It looks like tank stance is just completely going away now. In 8.0. Yeah, they do call it tank stance. Like I did give you the technically correct. It's just not what I was talking about. I was talking about the old tank stances. And the healer stances as well. The healer stances are just gone. Ukrainian doses. But let's get to the instructure breach. Because I think I covered everything that was like big red flags in the hiring process that I'm currently seeing. Actually, there is one last one, but nobody listening would be guilty of this, and nobody guilty of this would be listening. So there's a lot of people that are either using AI to shit their resume everywhere, or agencies are doing that for them. It's one of those two, probably both. But there's a lot, there's resumes that are not tailored to the position, which is a negative. It's not catastrophic. And then there are resumes that are just completely sent to the wrong job entirely. Like, it has nothing to do. Do you have any idea how many H1B, H1Bs I get for a general tech support role that have nothing but software writing credentials? Because it's a lot. It's a whole bunch. So they're H1B, they're incentivized to shit that resume in as many places as they possibly can. Also, we have too many software dev grads. We have too many software devs in general, and AI is not making that situation better. Like, before AI, it was already a problem that market was saturated. Now it's even worse. So, yeah. So everybody who gave into just learn to code lol, if you gave into that like very, very recently, I feel bad for you. That was good advice like 17 years ago. But unless you're entrenched in that industry now, ooh, it's rough out there, buddy. It's rough. Let's see, I don't want an article from the New York Times. Bleeping computer. There we go. We'll use bleeping computer. I will be very guarded and slow to speak on this one because I'm close enough to this situation that I have to consider what I am allowed to say. So bear with me. So if you're not familiar, exclamation point fish, by the way, if you're not familiar, Canvas is owned by, the product Canvas is owned by Instructure. And it is either the #1 or #2 learning management system in the world, if you don't include China and their internal bullshit. It's either that one or Blackboard that's #1. I forget where they're ranked right now, but chances are that if you're in high school or college, you are using either Blackboard or Canvas as your LMS. It might be time for some diagramming. because the problem with this breach is not obvious to people who don't understand the system that education is currently in right now. So I might have to draw that out a little bit. I love how he, like, raises his head for the final squeak. That will never not get me. Oh yeah, that was also... We need another one. Okay. So, in ye olden times... You had a few things. Oh no, no, the poor Glizzy. Yeah. In a college setting, you would have the professor. They would directly teach the class. And they would individually evaluate each student. Now, I'm talking about ancient history. This model died before I was born. Now we're going to fast forward to like 30 plus years ago. You have the professor. They still directly teach the class, mostly. The 1000 classes at this point may have started to do the GA model. We'll get to that. But at this stage, they directly teach the class. Class sizes are still pretty small. They start leaning to evaluation with essays or other paper exam. There's a difference here. Like, up here is a one-on-one with the student. The Y in Old English was anglicized thorn, which was derived from the Norse alphabet. Neat! Oh, that's cool. I like that. That is definitely something Claus would know, but I appreciate that information. Alright, and then more colloquially, we're still not to current day yet. Professor gives lesson plan to several TAs. They teach. Then they start out with passing the evaluation tasks back to the professor, but eventually this stops. And they also evaluate their course sections. And the reason this is happening, and the reason it happened so recently, is because this was the consequence of shoving more and more people into college. So they needed to update their workflows for evaluating and disseminating the teaching tasks. I should know that too. I had classes about it, but I forgot all of them. Oh, okay. Did a project on the Norse language. Another fun fact, the Norse alphabet is called Futhark. I'm probably butchering that. For the same reason Greek is called alphabet. Oh, neat. I know the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Did you hear about how there's a lot of populations where the mitochondrial DNA and the Y chromosome DNA are completely separate? As in, they don't come from the same lineage whatsoever? I've nearly only had classes taught by the professors. Right. One thing Europe still has as a whole, I'm not going to say Britain, but one thing Europe still has as a whole is you're not teaching at an industrial scale. And that's what this is why this is necessary to understand how important the instructure hat is. Oh no, it wasn't women fucking anything. The way that happens, Plaws, is when you get invaders and they kill all the men. This is actually, how Mexican DNA looks. All the mitochondrial DNA is Aztec, but all of the Y chromosome DNA is Iberian. Oh yeah, okay. You were just... Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Every time, it one-shots me every time I read up on the Aztecs, how recent, all things considered, that was. Like the conquest of Mexico and the subjugation of the Aztecs, that is way more recent than I keep imagining it is, because it sounds like it's something that happened in antiquity. It did not. It did not. 1,000-ish what, Noodle? 1,000-ish what? Years? Nope. Nope. Try the 1800s. T. Like very early 1800s, 1700s. Like, it was a whole ass process. But you should look into, like, the founding of Mexico City and just how recently that fucking was. It was actually a terraforming project at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it was a terraforming project. Ooh, a tiger shark. That's way better than my junk nugget. Oh, wait, that was Silphura's junk nugget. I caught the tiger shark. Sweet. Okay. So we're shoving more students in. These evaluations are, well, they're what you would start to associate with your K-12. Paper, even Scantron is landing now. Scantron is becoming the thing. Still paper. It's fun to learn how things you consider completely separated by time, in fact, existed at the same time. Like that samurai still existed when Nintendo was founded. Holy shit! Yeah, exactly like that. Today I learned. That's wild. But yeah, they teach the Aztec thing like it's ancient history, and actually it's like post-colonialism. And when you think about it, like, of fucking course it is, it would have to be. The conquistadors were Spanish colonialists. Like, of course it would have to be that recent. But it's always presented like it's ancient. I think that has a lot to do with, like, the noble savage myth. So you imagine it had to be, like, way, way, way back when, instead of the reality, which is just that the Aztecs in their technological state somehow existed post 1500s. Like, that is wild. It was like the same situation when you show up in Africa in certain places, but for some reason the way it's taught, it just feels like they want you to believe the Aztecs happened much earlier. Like, the way it's taught in school, it's like, well, the Maya, and then suddenly the Aztecs immediately after, and then after the Earth had cooled, conquistadors. You know, that's how it's taught. Okay, so through the 90s, this is what's going on. Then a magical thing happens. The internet happens. So this is the chunk that an LMS does. Because eventually the evaluation does come back to the professor, even in this model. This is very inefficient. Or rather, there's an upper bound to how many TAs you can split out here before the professor can't do it anymore. And then you have to hire more professors. And then you have to get a bigger building. And so on and so forth. But this does two things. Y'all know that my head is covering the word professor. Now online courses are happening. Yep. And that there was an even more powerful explosion that happened in 2016, 2017? Yeah, Krakatoa was 1883. Yeah, that I did know. I knew it was about that time. There was a stronger one in, like, the late 20-teens that was just fucking memory hold. I keep forgetting the name of it. Like, I'm aware it's a thing, and I keep forgetting the name of it. It may have even been post-2020s, actually. Like, it's super recent. Now, this is an extensible TA pool. Ain't no way Krakatoa didn't happen with pterodactyls flying over it. I know, right? That is how it's taught. You're not wrong. Infinite students. And the evaluation we'll put the evaluation there, assign it to the tag 1. The evaluation happens at the LMS. So now the professor is no longer really involved with this. If the professor wants to put a TA, depending on whether the institution allows it or not, by the way, if a professor wants to insert a TA here and then completely remove themselves from this process at this point they can. And this is what enables online courses. Or at least enables them at scale. And that's what we're talking about, is at scale. So what I mean is, like, about this time we start building classrooms that have 520 seats in them. That was the biggest at the time. It had 2 sister classrooms in the same building. They were roughly 250 seats each. And then those weren't big enough, so we had to connect these via an AV system. To get one class to fit. And then, well, I'll just say there's a 1,500 seat classroom now. LMS had 0 involvement in the exam. Well, I'm happy for you. That's how it works here, or did until last week. So what this lets you do is, like, have one professor to dozens of sections. And you can't see what I'm writing, so I'll just say it. One professor, dozens of sections, thousands of students. So, remember how I was saying how this will suddenly click with spicy now. Remember how I said that any degree earned containing COVID years is suspect. That model is why. Because in that model, sometimes scantrons were still involved. Sometimes. Well, they would both be suspect. Sorry, but only your knowledge is valuable. The degree has been completely removed as a proxy for what you've learned because of this system and because this happened. So, the way we used to manage the cheating risk here was to have your exams proctored. So you would go to some sort of testing center. You still do that with, like Pearson has testing centers, and they give various exams for various things, including, like, trade exams and, like, certifications. That's how I took mine. It's computer administered. And generally, in the college context, the LMS talks to these systems, and they take the exam on the LMS inside of this proctored environment. So what happens during COVID? Well, the proctored environment becomes your house that isn't proctored. The Tonga eruption. Yeah! Yeah, that thing. You don't do in-house exams? That's up to the professor, but at industrial scale, it's rare. At industrial scale university, it's rare. Because, like, I'll give you an example. During finals week, one professor, whether he uses Scantron or not, has to test about 8,000 students in a week. If they're in like a 1,000 level course, that is required course. Why or what? We get like 15,000 freshmen a year. That number has been going up 10% every year for the last 6 years. Like it's at like somewhere around 15,000 now, but it's a 10% growth year over year every year for like the past 6. He's speaking about finals and I'm trying to forget them so I can have a good weekend. You should forget about your finals. You should forget about them. This is shit the future has to deal with. This is shit the people whose exams got interrupted by the LMS being hacked have to deal with. That ain't you, pal. You drink your shit. Like, you drink whatever celebration drink you have, and you just fucking forget about it, man. Take it easy. Calm down. Adge. Yep. I'll answer your question later. That slide's not worth keeping. The other slides are better references. I'm definitely going to get fucked by finals 100%. All right, back. Apparently, we're roughly the same power. Oh, cool. I remember Tonga being slightly stronger, but it's not worth splitting hairs over. But yeah, we had a modern day Krakatoa. So that was cool, and no one fucking cared. That was like... That Tonga did not even get 5 minutes in the spotlight. It was crazy. All right, so Noodle, the reason we have that goes back to here. All right, it's one professor. But the one professor is in charge of a web of teaching assistants and graduate assistants that actually run the classes. So that the one professor can be in charge of 8,000 students. But that's not that many students. Like, you're thinking non-industrial scale. This professor could teach 8,000 students in a week, uniquely. Let's throw that professor into the 512-seat classroom. Let's just round that to 500. Well, if he's got 4 classes a day, that's 2,000 students a day. That means he only has to work 4 days a week to see all 8,000 of those students in a week. Like, it's actually pretty easy for one professor to have that many in-person students per week in a 512-seat classroom, and that's no longer our largest classroom. Our largest classroom now seats 1,500 students. The problem with having classes at this size and this scale comes at the evaluation step. Is where this becomes a problem. What? What do you mean, bro, what? We do things big here. When I tell you it's an industrial scale, and I'm using the scare quotes, education system, I mean exactly that. It is industrial scale. Like, I don't even sit at one of the largest universities in the country. Why is it industrial scale? I cannot answer those questions on Twitch, but I will say that in the 90s, every high school student was switched from a tracking system to a you are going to college system. I wouldn't say it's the population density. We have 300 million people in the country. That's not the issue. That's not the issue at all. The problem is the portion of those people we send to the higher education system. We are squeezing in people that just do not belong there at an industrial scale. Like, people who would legit, and I mean legit, be better off having been garbage men from day one. Yeah, and they're ready to follow. Yes, that is what I am going over. That's why the instructure hack is such a big problem. Because a lot of the stuff you'll see online is, well, why don't you just stop testing this way? And the answer to that is, we can't. And don't forget, yeah, we have tons of international students. We have tons of international students, but they're not a drop in the bucket of what's making the freshman classes balloon. Remember, the freshman classes are ballooning. Like, 10% growth year over year is crazy. As, like, a customer base increase. That's nuts in a country where you are having literal demographic decline. You're not at base replacement rate. Where the generations are getting smaller and not larger. But our class sizes our freshman classes are growing 10% year over year, every year. How do you think that's happening? How do you think that's happening? The bar is in hell, man. I remember it was like 1996 or 1995, somewhere in that area, Harvard actually got caught cooking its books, like straight up caught cooking its grade books, and everybody's like, ooh, well, whatever. They just let that go. You could look it up. Lowering the human population? No, I mean, like, the population generation over generation is going down. The class sizes are going up. How do you do that? How do you do that? Well, you make more people qualify for college, is what you do. And then you pretend that's a money problem and not an achievement problem. And then you have to start figuring out very creative ways of evaluating people so that they qualify for college when they actually don't. And then they're in college. And you're spending tax money to send them there because only those people get a free ride. That's the rub. That's the rub. Only the people that don't belong there are getting the free college. Or rather, by and large, they're the ones getting the free college. The people belong there have 5 to 6 digit student loans. And the reason, and those two factors are the reason these numbers are so high. The college gets paid to do this by largely by the government. So they're like, okay, it's time to freshman max. And that's what we're doing. We're freshman maxing. Like every public university is doing this. So they're freshman maxing because they get paid to take them in. And they get paid to qualify and more and more and more, we'll put some quotes here. First generation, that's a big buzzword these days. First generation college students. Where they're the first person in their entire lineage that has ever gone to college. in 2026. So, the only way you evaluate these at this scale is to have it done electronically. The LMS is what handles this task. The number 1 or number 2, I forget which, doesn't really matter. LMS got hacked for a lot of people during finals week. For us, it was the week after. But for a lot of people, this happened during finals week. Which is why this hack is being... I think I might see the challenge. This hack is being treated as a critical infrastructure attack, because it is. This is why I'm an infraguard. This is why I glow in the dark. Is because I am part of what they call critical infrastructure. Which seems ridiculous until this happens. This is also why I keep talking about how AI is an accreditation crisis. Because we did not stop cheating in COVID. We did not stop cheating in COVID. And AI detection tools are not great. So because all of the evaluation is being done by the LMS, feeding AI homework into the LMS for completion is at an incredible rate right now. It's in an incredible rate. This is an accreditation crisis. It's an evaluation crisis. The only way to really solve this is to go back... Oop, not that one. Is to go back to this step. And the United States has not been at this step since the 80s. I had something else going on, do it all again. But then the poor universities won't make bank. This will end my career, by the way. Or it will put a big damper on it. Course correcting and going back to here. My job would not be oh god. You want to talk about a global recession? Do you have any idea how much money is tied up in our industrial education system? Do you have any idea how much money is tied up in there? You know, we're adding a 3-story building. It costs $16 million. Oh shit, thanks for the stream streak. Get that glizzy up. It's like a 3 or 4-story building. It's going to cost us something like 16 to 20 million. Yeah, global recession would actually suck. This breaking, this thing right here breaking, would cause a global recession. Do you know how many of our legal to illegal skaters are here on overstayed student visas? Do you know how many of them that is? It is not a small number. It is not a small number. I would have to find a way to leave town. I would have to move my family if the higher education system collapsed. It is literally the only thing in the economy right here where I'm at. It is the only economy. Where I live is higher ed. I would have to leave if this collapsed. It would bankrupt the pension system. So not only would I have to leave, but my retirement's also gone. That being said, going back to here is the only way to restore confidence in the system. You couldn't prop it back up, though. The whole problem is structural. You cannot... Well, I guess you can. The whole problem is, at the end of the day, the whole reason we have this system is a credential proxy. We use this whole system to credential workers for corporations that rely on that worker output. And you've got two factors here. They are increasingly not relying on that worker output. This is why you import a doctor from Cuba, or why you import a doctor from Brazil and pretend those credentials are as good as ours. They aren't. Even as broken as our system is right now, they're not. But they're cheaper. So that's all tied up in the immigration crisis. But that's a pressure. Big corporations are, and I don't use that pejoratively because, like, big corporations are the economy, like, globally. It doesn't matter what you believe in. That is the current truth, and I believe it always will be. Big corporations are the economy. So there's two pressures going on. They're substituting other credentials for their workforce. And I believe the economy is the military. I mean, that's the biggest corporation. We just don't call it one. God, their their dependent corporations alone make up a good chunk of the S&P 500. Like, you've got Boeing, Raytheon, General Dynamics. Aren't we talking? I mean, BlackRock is not a big problem. As long as you're willing to use the military on BlackRock, BlackRock's okay. Because at the end of the day, the monopoly on force is the biggest corporation, which is what Plaza's point was, I think. I think that's what Plaza was getting at. Lockheed? It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Lockheed Martin, yeah. But, yeah, having a monopoly on force is really handy. Because if we decided tomorrow that, like, actually, you cannot own residential real estate if you're not an individual, we would have to enforce that at gunpoint, essentially. Like, when people talk about laws being hard to pass, it wouldn't matter if we passed that law tomorrow if we weren't willing to use the military to enforce it. That's just the truth. You can't look at hentai. Yeah. Thanks, Britain. But yeah, getting from the problem AI is creating necessitates leaning or getting off of the LMS. It necessitates getting off of the LMS. It basically rewinding how we evaluate students to the status quo of the 80s, which means paying professors in the status quo wages of the 80s, which when you adjust for inflation is even higher than the insane amount they get paid now. That's the problem with the one they passed recently. Yeah, each company can only have 20, but we are already seeing they just make shells and stack 20s. Yep, you have to enforce it at gunpoint. You would literally have to make the law only an individual can own a residential home. And I can tell you what's going to happen if you pass that law. There won't be residential zones. The single family home will die. Like, it's already dead in theory, but you literally won't have them. They will just build apartment complexes because there will be an exception for apartment complexes because there has to be. So what will builders do? They will build nothing but apartment complexes because the big corporations will be ordering nothing but apartment complexes. They will not be ordering single family homes. They just won't. They need that land. They need it so that they can have it, which is the only reason to need it. And people accuse me of being a far-right radical. Let's see. Nope. Let's see. There we go. So, we have two pressures. We have AI cheating. This is like the education system as a whole. It's a good thing the education system isn't in charge of producing our trades, by the way. They were actually recently trying to position for that, and they're still trying to position from that. Tech schools are being bought up by universities at a very high rate. But you also have the credential substitution. I was talking about earlier. And just like substituting out milk, substituting your milk out for sweetened condensed milk is not the same, but as long as you call it the same, I guess that's okay. Because that's what's happening over here. We're saying, actually, we could use the third worlder doctors. I'm sure their degrees are just as good as ours. You will read the textbook, and you will like it. Subby wubby. So that's what's going on there. I should put S&P 500 here. Because that's what they're doing. 12 years ago, the Fortune 500 companies were ringing alarm bells on how much remediation they were having to do from college grads. That was like 12 years ago. And the education system is growing class sizes, not... I guess I could put that arrow the other way, because that's actually like a third pressure. And the reason that's a third pressure is it precludes change. So what you have is increasing enrollment. Which can also be read as increased revenue. Where does betting it all on Kalshi in this graph? I think you left out a few words there. Anyway, welcome in, Nero. What was your thing, if you would say? Weren't we talking recently about how, like, South Korea's economy is literally, like, 5 to 6 companies? Yeah, but that's South Korea. That's literally, like, Ohio. Like, I'm not even kidding. I would legit have to move. this entire city would become a ghetto. It would look like Detroit. Oh, a Star Wars party. Okay. Interesting. I thought you were supposed to have that a few days ago. This can also be seen as money go up. So if you go to a more classic 80s style evaluation, let's just say 80s evaluation, 80s evals, to crush this, then you can't do this, and then the money go down. But if you don't do this, and this keeps happening, then what you have is, you have credential ruination. Which makes money go down even faster. Because that is the entire product of the education system. Companies and schools are literally VTubers. Yes, I'm destroying everything, but number go up. Yep. And then credential subbing is just a general negative money pressure. But leaving this alone so that this keeps going up ruins the whole system and makes money go down. Fixing this makes money go down, but not at this level. In other words, oh, let me get my fat head out of the way. In other words, contraction as things currently stand, there might be two ends in inevitable, but you know, I went to state school. The contraction is coming. The problem we have to figure out to prevent that, one in, cool. Thank you, Noodle. The problem we have to figure out to fix it. How fix without recession. You have to figure out how to increase the scale of evaluation, but also reliably detect AI submissions. I can already think of a way to do this. Are you guys ready? Blackmail. Are you guys ready for how you solve this? It's oh man. It's great. Do you know how to solve this? I know how to solve this. This is how you solve this problem without collapsing the whole system. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready for this? You take a PhD or a group of them, hit it until it works close or a group of them. You give them a grant to study whether using AI to do your homework and pass your tests actually predicts whether or not you know the information that you are being taught. And the conclusion of that study is AI isn't bad, actually. And then you declare this as just not a problem. And then it's fixed. So, versus letting the entire university system collapse, actually fixing the university system, or RM's C option, which one of those do you think is going to happen? I'm getting my noose. The lion? Yeah, okay. Obviously, the solution is Warhammer 40k. But yeah. So, my prediction for the evaluation crisis is that we will have the boffins determine that actually doing your assignments with AI and evaluations with AI is actually not an issue, and that maybe we should just not evaluate at all. That reminds me, or this reminds me of the Coca-Cola subsidized a study that concluded sugary beverages don't contribute to obesity. I remember that. I remember when that came out. I remember that study. Remember the study that Kellogg's did to say that grain-based cold cereals were good for you and your heart? I remember the food pyramid. It only took oh god damn it. Thanks for the gift, Nero. Fish. Sip. Oh, I appreciate it, bro. So, I want you guys, because you guys are on the cutting edge of this, okay? No one else is saying this. No one else is saying this. I want you to start keep your ear to the ground, start watching for this language. I want you to start watching for language that starts to try and minimize the I am on the cutting edge. Yep. A lot of the Oshis I have, you know, they're on the cutting edge too. Watch for this language. Watch for the language of AI is not actually hurting our evaluative processes. Actually, we should let the students use AI while they're testing. Actually, we found out that it makes them retain what they've learned better. Actually, we should be pro-AI agents in the testing room. Watch for that. I'd really much rather not, honestly. Yeah? You don't like that told you so? Because I think that's going to be one of my 20 years told you so's. I'm going to be in my 60s, and this part of the evolution will finally run out of steam, and they'll have to find the next one. And I will get my I might be dead already told you so, but it's coming. This is what's going to happen. This will be solved politically instead of structurally. We should have a holiday where we just let AI control every aspect of life for a day. That would be fun. Didn't they make a movie about that? I think it was called The Purge. As long as it's after I'm done. Oh, yeah. Speaking of AI, This is actually a question it's good at handling, so I'm going to ask it. Hello, AI. Have I'm doing the Nero thing. What is the size of the U.S. university market? But there is a non-zero chance AI will give me a Dami Mommy God. Oh, that's a lot of text. $605 billion in 2026 is the higher education market cap. When I tell you the collapse of the LMS is a global recession tier problem, I am not kidding. I'm not kidding. They will come up with a study that says AI is good to let people use on tests, actually. It's like a calculator. We let people use calculators on tests. Collapse it right meow. That isn't even close to our national debt. That's fine. Yeah, but it is a third of our GDP. Just because we've let our debt balloon way higher than our GDP doesn't mean that 605 billion isn't a good chunk of it. Bro, it's just numbers on a screen. Blow it up. I'm glad I've given everybody GDP. Goddamn penis. Have I given everybody the warm fuzzies yet? That's what I aim to do here. Okay, wrong question. Our GDP grew less than 2 trillion from 2025 to 2026 so far. That's the projection. What was it 2024 to 2025? 28 and 3/4 trillion to 30.8 trillion. So we're talking like 1.3, 1.4-ish ballpark trillion GDP on an annual basis. And 605 billion of that is the education market. Obviously, there are adjustments there, like education. Well, you know, maybe they did classify education as a durable good. You know, like, who knows what those economists are up to these days. But I'm telling you guys, this is fucking serious. And they will pull all sorts of shenanigans to keep this, shibboleth going. They absolutely will do it. There's too much money involved. Bratty GDP needs to be corrected. Anyway, that's all I had to talk about tonight. So I think we're gonna wrap it up. God, I haven't wrapped it up in years. So Nero, you're practicing singing soon, right? Yep. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm gonna plug that once again. Once again, my sister, Sylph, will be in tomorrow early in the morning, same bat time. Wasn't that 10? Don't we go live at 10 EDT? I forgot whether that was 10 or 9. Yeah, 10 a.m. Well, we're in daylight savings time now. Yeah, we're in EDT. Yeah, 10 a.m. EDT. Naturally, you can never keep the two of us on topic, but there's some MMO stuff I want to try to talk about tomorrow. For sure. For sure. And actually, I probably should have wrapped the stream up early today because I've got to set up the set. So, I've got some work to do when I cut stream off. The trauma couch. The fucking trauma couch. I think we'll be in the other room. I think we'll be in the other room tomorrow. Bye!